Howdy, and welcome to the Highline Herd podcast, where stories ride strong and the bond between folks and their horses runs deep. Each Sunday, we're talking everything from trail tips and tack to good old horse sense and the people who live it every day. Keep up with the herd by following us over on Instagram at the Highline Herd and swinging by our website at thehighlineherd.com. Now, let's ride into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Highline Herd. I'm Skylar.
And I'm Shelby.
And today we are going to be talking about all that goes into, or at least the majority of what goes into, planning your facility.
Planning your facility, buying your facility, looking for a facility, looking at land to build one.
Yes.
Whether you plan to live on the land or plan to just have your horses there, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot you gotta think about and a lot you gotta be prepared for.
And a lot of the things people overlook when getting into all of this.
They get so excited about their first property, their first purchase. They think it looks perfect.
Yep.
Because on paper, sometimes things can be perfect.
Oh, yeah.
And then you actually live on the property for a year and you realize,
not the case.
No, there's either things that weren't built properly or were never installed that would be really helpful. The amount of places I know that lack water hydrants is amazing.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you have water?
Right. So, that's actually a good place to start. Let's talk about water because that is going to be your biggest need and your biggest enemy owning a property and trying to have horses and a barn and an arena and all the things.
Yes. So, animals, like us, need water. It is a staple. You have to have water. You have to have access to clean water. So that means running water.
Mm-hmm.
And that means hydrants. Is it going to be in the ground? Is it going to be something that's risen out of the ground? How is the facility set up? Is the water easy to access? Does it flood? Does it collect in places? Yeah. There's so much that goes into it.
There's so much. So, let's start with the very first one. How does the water on your land drain? Do you know where it drains? Do you know where it's going to erode the earth? Because if your water drains through the pasture, it's going to eventually erode a ditch and then a creek and then a ravine through your pasture.
Yeah.
So do you have a way to prevent that, redirect it? Are you willing to put in the work to adjust that drainage? Say the drainage runs across your driveway, or say your property doesn't drain at all.
Oh, yeah.
And you live in, like I do, a swamp for 6 months out of the year because the rain and snow and sleet, it just gathers and sits.
Collects and collects.
And here in Ohio, we have clay soil, and some areas have more clay than others. So we don't drain well anyway.
Yeah. My entire mud lot is actually clay underneath the soil. So there's a thin layer of topsoil, and then underneath that is just clay, and straight clay. So it makes, in the winter times, in the muddy season, or when it rains, horrible to be out there because it just sits. The water sits and it doesn't go anywhere. Thankfully, there's a slight, hill.
There's a decent slope to it.
Yes. So it has a little bit of a place to run, which is why it doesn't flood like Shelby's property. But it's just something to take into account and think of, again, when you are getting into all of this and owning your own facility.
And when you're looking at it too, and you're thinking about drainage and water and where you might run drainage lines if it needs it, think about where the barn is. Whether the barn's pre-existing or whether you're building the barn. I know of a barn because of the way it's set. They tucked it at the base of the property, and so it's in this kind of valley situation.
Yeah. And
every time we get a heavy rain, their whole aisleway floods, their stalls flood because of where it's set. All the water just right into the barn.
Oh, gosh.
And that's poor design. That's poor property design.
That sucks.
There's nothing you can do to when the land is like that, but they could have built their barn in a different location.
Yeah.
Or built up the barn.
Yes. That's another thing I see people do.
Yeah. When you're looking at property, consider if there's an existing barn, how's the water going to behave? Is it going to sit and rot out the supports of your barn? Is it going to flood your barn? Is it going to wash out your indoor arena every time it rains?
Oh, yeah.
Or if you're building, think about where the drainage is. If you have to build where you know there's going to be poor drainage, how can you build your barn in such a way
Yep.
that that water doesn't become an issue?
Yeah. Because nobody wants to walk into their barn and see their entire thing flooded or their tack rooms flooded, all their tack is destroyed, their feed's gone. It's just
Right. You don't
not a situation you want to be in.
You don't want your horses standing in water like that. You don't
Exactly.
want your shavings getting ruined.
Yeah.
The amount of, if you have 20 stalls and they all are bedded and all those stalls flood, you have to throw out all of that bedding.
Yeah, it's all wasted.
Yeah.
And how much money would you waste? And
Right. It
cleaning
depends
up
on
and
how heavy you
everything.
bed, but most people I know bed a decent amount.
Yeah.
So they lose a good amount of shavings.
Yeah. It's
So-
just expenses you don't want to lose out on.
Yeah. So you're talking about water as your enemy. Where does your water drain and where does it want to go? You got to think about that when you're looking at property.
Yeah.
Now, water as your friend. Where can you place hydrants to make your life easier?
Yes.
If you've bought the land and you're building your own facility, can you run water lines? Do you have to run water lines from the road to the main part of the building?
Yeah.
Or can you run water from the house to your barn?
Can you branch off from certain
Yeah.
areas or do you have to connect to the main line?
Yeah. Those are things you have to consider because trust us when we say we've worked in a lot of barns and having a hydrant right next to your troughs makes your life so much faster and so much easier.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, when we put in our barn, we had one hydrant at the barn, and it was inside in kind of this corner of the barn that was really hard to get into. That position has never been ideal. We would love to move it, but it works for how it is right now. And we ended up putting in a second hydrant in that sand paddock area, and that connects to 3 different pastures. So we can just fill up water troughs right from there. And there's 3 different areas that we can fill all together. And it's so efficient for filling up water troughs or hosing off horses if we need to. It makes our life 10 times easier.
It really does. And if you've got a bigger facility, like I worked at a barn where she had 3 pastures, but they were on opposite sides. So one was on one side of the barn, the other 2 were in the back. Well, if I was trying to drag water from the main barn, I would need 400 feet of hose just to reach the front pasture.
Goodness. Yeah.
If I wanted to reach the back 2, I might need 300, but no one wants to drag that much hose around. So when you've got a bigger facility like that where your pastures are offset from the barn a fair distance, or they're in different locations on the property, having hydrants right next to where your trough is going to be, or at least right next to the gate, makes your life so much easier.
It really does.
And then hopefully there's no foolproof plan if you live in Alaska where it's regularly below 0. Then there's no foolproof plan for freezing, but your life is easier having hydrants close to your troughs.
Yeah.
The likelihood of them freezing is lower. The likelihood of hoses freezing is significantly lower.
Yeah, and you'll want to take care of your equipment too.
You'll want
Especially during the
frost-free
winters.
hydrants. You'll want to set your water lines below the freeze line.
Yep.
You'll want to make sure you insulate your hydrants and all of that. But
And even your hoses, disconnect them if it's really cold.
yeah, but that's a whole other winter prep episode. So water is your friend. Have hydrants anywhere you can. Have them in the barn for ease of filling, for ease of washing horses, for ease of washing equipment. Have hydrants by your pastures. Have hydrants by your dry lots.
Yep.
Having hydrants wherever your horses may be drinking or being hosed off will make your life so much easier.
Yes, it will.
So that is water as your enemy and as your friend. And, if you have the luxury of building your facility, budget for hydrants.
Yeah.
Budget for drainage, budget for hydrants.
Oh, yeah.
So that actually leads us into another great point when you're looking at buying a horse property. What does the land itself look like? Is it super hilly, super wooded, super flat?
How many acres do you have?
Yeah.
Can you subdivide it into different pastures? If you're building a barn, how much space do you have to build the barn area and then pasture area?
Yeah. If it's super hilly, are you going to be able to put in pasture? Are you going to
Yeah.
be able to put in an arena or a barn? Super hilly properties, you can't always build on them.
Yeah.
You might be able to throw down some electric fence, but you might not be able to sink posts or anything like that.
Or there could be a lot of drainage if you do get a lot of rain.
Constant runoff.
Yeah.
Weakening the soil, which weakens your posts and their grip.
Yep.
And hilly pastures, while they can be super fantastic for your horse's body, can also be very dangerous, especially when they get slick.
Yes.
So it's the same old, right? Oh yeah, a horse is laying down, that's great, but it also might not be great. A horse is running, that's great. It might not be great.
Yeah.
So
it could be a good and a bad thing.
Yeah. It's the usual thing with horses. Well, there's two sides to this coin.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at a property, you want to consider, is it super hilly? Is it super flat? Because super flat, it may not drain, but super hilly, it may drain too well, and you might have more issues.
Yeah. I know when my family got our property, we didn't really look into everything for the horse side of it because we knew it was down the line. We weren't getting the property specifically for horses. We were getting it to move into, kind of farm life and have property and have woods and have our own land. But most of our property was covered in woods. And the pastures that we have today, we had to cut and shape and tear down all the woods, pretty much that was just there, like trees that were either dead or dying that we just uprooted and took out so we could have more space for our horses. And that's just something that you have to account for.
Yeah, and when you say you are one of those people who you have trees, but you can put the trees in your pasture. Are they safe trees to put in your pasture?
Yes.
You have to consider that too. What's the plant life on this property?
Yes. Is there anything toxic to the horses that grows here naturally?
What are you willing to put in work-wise to make pasture space?
Yeah.
When you're looking at the land too, you're also going to want to consider what's the driveway situation. Are you putting in a driveway or is there one already there? Speaking from experience, if you set your barn at the bottom of a hill in the wintertime, your chances of getting up that hill are very low. Yes. I watched someone try. Luckily, the trailer was empty. She had enough sense to not put the horse in the trailer. She tried to go up the hill.
Oh, dear.
In four-wheel drive, mind you. Four-wheel drive, empty two-horse trailer, and she had a 2500 truck. So a decent towing capacity, right?
Okay.
Tries to go up the hill, and it's the middle of winter. She just slides right back down and jackknifes the crap out of that trailer.
Oh, no.
And it took us probably 3-4 hours to get everything situated so we could unhook the truck and then deal with the trailer. That wasn't her trailer, mind you. It was a borrowed trailer. No. So not only was the driveway completely blocked for that time period, there was no getting out if there was an emergency because of the iciness, as well as the driveway being blocked. So when you're building these properties and these facilities, account for that. Because, if you live in Texas, that's not really an issue. But if you live in, like we do, Ohio, where your winters are icy and wet, or Missouri, Minnesota, Montana, consider, are you going to be able to get in and out of your property in an emergency?
Yes. Consider your vehicle, too.
Yeah.
What vehicles do you have on the property? Do you have ATVs, quads, trucks?
If you have a large enough property that you're fortunate enough to have, 10 plus acres of pasture space, how are you getting out to those pastures quickly?
Yeah.
Those are all things you have to consider. Is no one wants the worst case to happen. But we need to think about the worst case anyway, so we are prepared for it.
Yeah, thinking proactively will help you down the line because you'll be a little bit more prepared to handle situations if they should arise.
Right, thinking about where your property is situated. How far are you from your personal vet? I know I can haul into my vet if something happens. How far are you from an emergency clinic?
Yeah.
How far are you from the feed store or the main town area? What's the route to your property going to look like?
Yeah.
All of those things are things that seem minor, but
they're so important.
They are. Skylar, where she lives, it's not bad to get to with a trailer, but it's very difficult, especially if there's any kind of road closure.
Which we had to deal with today.
Yeah. And then I got to unexpectedly drive around the block for 20 minutes while we tried to figure everything out.
Yeah.
And block the whole road for one crappy patch job, because that makes sense.
Yep. Gotta love road work.
Yeah. But that's what you have to think about. Do you have neighbors? What are those neighbors' opinions towards horses?
Yes.
Your neighbors may want to feed your horses, or your neighbors may endanger your horses and not care.
So that's a good segue. Fences.
Mm-hmm.
What do your fences and your pastures look like? Do
What
they
can
have
you
fences?
do?
Exactly.
You can't use all types of fences on all property.
Exactly. And what does your pastures butt up against? Is it up against a road where people have access to your horses to feed them? So
Is it against a neighborhood?
Exactly.
Or is it against a tree line where you have to worry about trees breaking your fence?
Yep, trees falling.
Or brush interfering with your electric.
Yes.
I know some electric lines are really sensitive to anything touching them, and it can short them out or ground them out, and they don't work anymore.
Yeah. A lot of people in our area, myself included, use electric wire. It's just easy to put up. It's easy to maintain for the most part.
It's easy to alter, to move,
Yes.
adjust, repair.
Yeah.
But it's not foolproof.
No. I mean, no one way of fencing is foolproof.
No,
unfortunately.
I knew a horse, he could never be kept on electric fence. He didn't care. He'd just push through it. Especially if he was wearing a blanket, he would just ignore it.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah. The only way you can keep him in is with a wood fence. But I know some horses that would blow through a wood fence in a heartbeat, but you lay down electric and they're like, fine,
Oh, no.
I'll stay here. So that's the thing. When you're designing a property, what can you have on there and what type of fencing works best for your horse?
Yeah.
And if you're not sure, a good rule of thumb is to always go with either wood or no climb and top it with electric.
Yeah.
So if you're getting a property for the first time and you don't have a horse yet, but you want to be prepared, make sure you have water.
Yes.
Make sure you know where your pastures are going to go. Make sure there's nothing toxic. And make sure you can get in and out in an emergency. And then make sure that you have fencing that will work for most horses. Nothing's foolproof. You're probably going to be changing something, as Skylar just had to do.
Yeah.
Her electric has worked for how long? And
our electric has worked for almost 9 years now that we've been on the property. And for the first time in 9 years, one of the horses, I think it was either Sunny or Chance, either was sticking their head under the fence because we don't have our electric running down close enough to the ground. They stuck their head under the fence to get to the good green grass and panicked or pulled their head back up, got tangled in the electric, tore the entire fence down. So I woke up to a phone call from my parents saying, hey, the horses are out. And I just get up, look outside the cabin, I see the fences down. Funny enough, Sundown was still in the pasture. He would not come close to the fence line.
then maybe he was the problem maker and
he might have been the problem
barreled
maker.
backwards and he went, I live here now.
Yes. He did not come to me, so I had to kind of walk to him and tell him it was okay to come over the fence line just so that I could get him safely around the other side of the barn where the other horses were. Because he was panicking. He was clearly sweaty, like he had been running and freaking out because his friends were gone. Willie and Chance were just like, woohoo, free
And then
grass.
they were like, grass.
They didn't care. But because of that, we decided to put up wood fencing along my side of the pasture area. Just so that if something were to happen, it's a sturdier surface and we don't have to run the risk of them getting out like they did.
Yeah, there's no guarantees. You'll always have one horse that decides to just make you feel like an idiot.
Special.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah.
But that's the other thing too. What's your driveway? Do you have the ability to fence off your driveway so if your horses get out like that,
Can
they
you fence
don't
off
reach the
your property?
road?
Yeah.
Can you fence off your property? Now, horses typically won't go into tree lines. Forests are not their go-to.
No, if they see a field of grass, that's where they're typically going.
Yeah.
Unless something is actively scaring them or chasing them.
Yeah, they're not as likely. So if your property is surrounded by trees, you don't have as high a risk of them going through that as they are going to go through. Horses are creatures of path of least resistance most of the time.
Most of the time.
There is the odd one that pops up every now and then that believes any obstacle is a challenge that must be. He's actually very respectful of most things. But that's the thing you have to think about, your driveway. If your horses get loose, are they going to wind up on the main road endangering themselves and others? Because in some areas, you are liable for any damage your horses cause, even if your horse dies.
Yes. If your horse causes damage to another person's private property or their
Or them as a human.
as a human, yeah, you are 9 times out of 10 liable and have to pay out whatever it is to fix it or cover costs, etc.
Yeah, and then there's just the adage of you don't want to lose your horse.
You don't want to lose your horse, and you don't want that stress.
No. So can you gate off your barnyard? Can you gate off your whole property? Can you put a gate at the end of your driveway? If that's the only way out, can you gate the driveway? One of my favorite barn designs is and always has been the ability to fence the entire barn.
Yeah.
So all of your access to your pastures is in the barnyard. So if a horse gets loose, they can run around the barn, but they're not going to run around the property or run down the road or anything like that.
They're not getting out.
No, they're just running around the barn.
They're contained in a different area.
Yeah, they're just making you feel like an idiot because you go around one way and then they go the other way and then you just keep going back and forth around the barn trying to catch them.
Yeah.
And just bring around their Ozy. Been there, done that, but they can't get on the road, so.
Exactly. So that's a big part of designing your physical barn, or even if it's a pre-existing structure, designing around that structure.
How can you improve it to work for you?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. When you're looking at a pre-existing structure, you have to think about what are you willing to fix? What are you willing to maintain? What are you willing to modify? How much work are you willing to put in? Because I know of some places that on the surface, they seem amazing. I actually went and looked at one of these barns. It seemed amazing. The barn itself had like a little kitchenette lounge area. So you could have someone sleep in there and they'd be right next to the indoor arena. They'd be right next to the horses. They had like a 10-stall barn next to the indoor. They had another individual barn with like 30 stalls in it for just mares. And then they had a separate stud barn.
Nice.
So on the surface, it seemed like a great facility.
Yeah.
But when you actually started looking at it, none of the concrete had been laid right. Oh. None of the hydrants worked because they hadn't laid them right.
Oh, no.
All of the doors were rotting. None of them could really open or close well.
Oh.
And we weren't allowed to go in the one barn. And the entire indoor had been stripped. Like all the sand and dirt taken out.
Oh, that's not fun.
So it's like when you're looking at that kind of facility, it wasn't in a bad location. The land itself wasn't bad. But who's willing to put in that much work on the actual structures themselves?
You'd be better off just building from scratch. Yeah.
Right. Especially, when you consider the price point of the property itself.
Yes.
That when you're looking at it, you got to determine how much work and finances am I willing to put into this.
Yeah.
Just because it looks amazing, you got to look deeper.
You got to dig deeper. Just like any house. Like
right.
Looking to purchase a house.
I went with my stepmom to look at this property because, again, it seemed great. But I was noticing all the little stuff like that.
Yeah.
The concrete was cracked. They had a hydrant they didn't want to fix for some reason. Why don't we want to fix that?
Is there a bigger problem at hand?
Right. Like, this barn was a true good, the bones of it was a good facility on the design. It had stocks. Very few barns nowadays have stocks.
That's cool.
It had, like, a full wash bay. It was dedicated for that.
Oh, nice.
And then it had, like, a kind of outdoor deal as well, wash section. Seems great. A separate feed room, a tack room, 2 ladders to get up into the loft.
Oh, wonderful.
Right, but then all your doors.
That's the catch.
Yeah. You'd have to replace all the doors. You'd have to rip up all of the concrete and redo it. Which anyone who's done concrete work is
not
gonna.
Fun.
Yeah. Everyone who's listening who's done concrete work is like, yep, nope. Especially if that concrete work includes plumbing.
Oh, dear.
Because they were like, oh yeah, we have this full wash bay. It's super nice, but it doesn't drain.
Well, then you don't have a wash bay. You
just have
an empty stall.
Basically. That's the thing. Can you put in a wash bay and drain it effectively?
Yes.
I still don't know where my wash bay drains out to, but it drains, so...
It goes somewhere.
Yeah. All I can hope is that I don't have an issue because I will never find the end of it.
Oh, dear.
But those are the things you have to think about. What are you willing to put in work and finances wise?
Yes.
Just because something seems amazing doesn't mean it is. And if the route to your property that you're looking at is super hilly and super windy, do you want to drive that with a trailer every time you want to go somewhere?
Yeah, or if people are coming into you or hauling to you
right.
or from you.
Or if you're on a super busy road, do you want to be on a super busy road or do you want to be somewhere quieter?
Do you have a narrow driveway
Or
or
a
a
wide
wide
driveway?
Yeah.
Anyone who's driven a trailer bigger than a 2-horse is going to agree with me when I say the bigger the driveway entrance, the better.
Yes.
And if you're designing your own driveway, please make it wide enough for multiple vehicles to pass each other. And please make it wide enough you can turn around somewhere.
Yeah. That is our biggest, like, when we moved
That is
into
the
this
best part about your property design is that you,
Yes.
as long as people park correctly,
Yes.
you have turnaround space with any vehicle.
So, fun fact, that driveway coming back to our barn wasn't here. It was just a grassy field. And my family decided that we were going to build a gravel drive going all the way back. And not only that, we wanted to have a roundabout back in front of the barn. So there's ample place to, park our trailers, circle around. Our goal was to be able to circle a long trailer around. I'm talking 4-horse with living quarters long. So that was what we had to work with at the time when we first got this property, and that was our first big project. And it has saved us so much down the line.
Oh, it saves so
Oh
much
my
time
goodness.
not having to 3-point turn with a trailer.
Yes.
So what I like about my property is right next to the barn. When I had the smaller truck, I could make the turnaround. It was really tight. But with a baby truck and a 2-horse, I could do it.
Yeah.
Now I can't, which means
You got a
every
big
time I
truck.
pull in, I have to make this big, wide, goofy turn and then back up and pull forward and back up and pull forward. And again, I will refer you all, if you're in an emergency, do you want to have to be doing that?
Yeah.
If I could change my property design and, again, finances, I would make the drive situation different. And that's the other thing. So, to get to Skylar's barn, you have to pass the main house.
Yep.
If you're running a boarding or training facility, do you want them driving past your house every single day?
Every single time.
Or do you want to make a separate drive?
Mm-hmm.
That's something else to think about.
Yep.
Do you want to gate your driveway so that you can limit people coming in and out and when they come in and out?
Is the gate possibly going to be what fences in your entire property in case a horse gets out?
What kind of gate is it going to be?
Yep.
I drove through one. It was a very nice facility. I hauled in just to use the indoor because it was one of the first year. It was the first year we had moved. Our property, like I said, flat swamp.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nowhere to ride without. No. So we hauled into an indoor, and they had an automatic gate. You roll forward enough, you trigger a pressure plate, the gate moves out of your way, you roll through.
Fancy.
Really fancy. Do you want to put the finances towards something like that? Or maybe you just want an open driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to think about all of these things. Electric. Is there already electric running to your main property? Or do you have to get electric run from the road to your property, to your building? Is that something you want to do? Because trust us when we say you want electric in your barn.
Yes,
and
you do.
Want it quality. You want it up to every single code known to man.
You want it to be able to handle larger equipment if needed and larger lights if needed.
Larger lights, heated buckets, fans.
All of it.
You want your outlets covered if you can. You want outlets at every single stall.
Yes.
You want outlets anywhere you're going to be doing farrier or vet work. Trust me, your farrier and vet will love you.
Yes.
I know my farrier likes to carry a fan during the summer. He likes to be able to plug in. I know some farriers like to plug in their lights. You need to plug in clippers for your vet. Your vet needs to be able to plug in their equipment like x-ray sometimes.
Yep.
Do not expect your vet and farrier to have everything they need. They may need you to be able to provide something as simple as electricity or water.
Yep.
Be able to provide it. And that brings us to another excellent point. Do you have somewhere for your vet and farrier? Do you have somewhere for them to park and work on a horse in peace without other horses pestering them?
Do they have to work in the aisle? Can they work in a stall?
Can they work in a grooming station?
Grooming station, all of it. Yeah.
If you have the option for grooming stations, make sure they're big enough. Mm-hmm. If you are building your own barn, again, no one wants to think about this, but you have to consider it. If you have to get to a horse in a stall with a piece of equipment, can you fit equipment down your barn aisle?
Yep.
Can you drive a truck or a tractor down your barn aisle?
Yeah.
Because trust me, there's going to come a time you are going to want to. Whether it's just to make unloading something easier like feed, or whether you're trying to get a horse out of a stall because they're cast or unfortunately they've passed away in the stall.
Yeah, I've seen that happen a lot.
And it's not pretty when the barn isn't properly prepared for that.
No, you have to just kind of manhandle the animal, and nobody wants that either. No.
And so that's what you have to think about is, can you get equipment up and down your barn aisle? And two, you want barn aisles to be wide enough that A, horses aren't going to feel claustrophobic.
Yes.
They can't go after each other if they can stick their heads out of the stalls. You don't want them to be able to bite each other.
No.
Height, I will tell you this. There are pros and cons to a low height barn. So you want like 8 feet minimum, so if a horse rears, they're not knocking their head or breaking lights.
Yeah.
But there is a benefit to lower roofed barns. It tends to make horses more aware of their heads. And if you do have someone who likes to rear, a lower roofed barn usually breaks that habit pretty quickly.
Quick. Yeah, because they can't.
Right. Or they'll hurt themselves.
Yeah.
Horses have self-preservation 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
It may not seem like it,
but sometimes they do.
They do. That's what you have to think about in the actual barn design. Where are you going to put the outlets? You need outlets everywhere. Yeah. You need a place for your vet and farrier. You need space for your horses that they can't get each other. I saw a video, narrow aisle. You might know the video I'm talking about because I think it's circulated for a hot minute because it was very, like, everyone had an opinion. It was one of those types of videos.
Oh, yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
This girl's leading one horse down the aisleway, but they're the type of stalls where the door's cut out so the horse can hang their heads out.
Yeah.
A horse shoots out of the stall, grabs the girl, yanks her down, more than likely going for the other horse, but it's hard to say from a 5-second clip.
Yeah, and we don't have all the angles.
Right.
Yeah.
The horse lunges out of the stall, grabs the girl, yanks her down. The horse she's leading panics and kicks her.
Yep.
And takes off. That could have been avoided had the barn aisle been wide enough.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that could have been done to avoid it, but ultimately a wider barn aisle would have eliminated the potential issue.
Yeah, and even sometimes horses don't care.
Some
horses are just assholes.
They
I deal with that on a daily basis where horses will lunge at others that you're leading outside of a stall. And it's not fun.
And that's what you have to think about too in stall design. Are you designing stalls that horses can stick their heads out? While it's ideal, can your horses behave?
Yeah, that too. Do they have the proper training for it?
If you're building your own property, do you have somewhere to store hay?
Yes.
Do you have somewhere to store feed and tack that's out of the way?
Climate controlled, preferably.
Yeah. How easily can you get hay to your horses? How easily can you feed your horses?
Does your barn have a loft? Can you store things in the loft?
There are so many factors to looking at a property, to buying a property, to building a barn, or buying a barn. Mm-hmm. There are so many factors, guys, and all we can do is touch on a couple because this is an episode we can take so far down the rabbit hole for hours.
Oh, yeah.
But this is the basic. We'll do a deep dive into things like stall design later on.
It's just to get the gears churning, get you thinking a little bit about some things that you might need to take into account if, going through the process of either getting your own facility or building your own.
And the biggest takeaway is just make sure you've thought about every possible emergency and worst case scenario and you're prepared for it.
Yes.
It sucks, but with horses, that's what you have to be prepared for.
So we hope you enjoyed this week's episode. I think next week we're going to talk a little bit more about stall design and what we personally went through when building stalls. As you know, I made an addition to my barn and Shelby just recently made an addition to hers.
Yep, and from barns we've seen, barns we've worked at, all of the things.
All of it. Just to give you guys a better idea of what actually goes into the specifics of creating a stall and creating a space for your horse in your barn.
Yeah.
So if that interests you, stay tuned. And we hope to see you next week.
We hope you enjoyed this week's topic. Join us for new episodes every Sunday. And to keep up with the herd, be sure to follow us on Instagram at The Highline Herd and visit our website at thehighlineherd.com. We hope you enjoy the show. See you next week.